Hey, Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, Governor Beshear braces us for a potentially bad week. The SEC football schedule is released, and manufacturers have a message for workers in the bluegrass. We're hiring. All that and more is next on Hey, Kentucky. Welcome to Hey, Kentucky with LEX 18 Sports Director Keith Farmer. Hope you had a great weekend, Keith.
I did, yeah. Very calm and soothing. I actually went on the Elkhorn Creek and did a little kayaking, so that was fun.
That does sound soothing. All right, maybe not as soothing here. Today's news of the latest COVID numbers comes after the governor said the state is likely to see its highest week of total cases this week following Saturday's numbers. That's when Andy Beshear announced 683 new cases. There were just shy of 400 today, although the average positivity test rate dipped to 5.45% in that daily report, was up a little bit today. Meanwhile, local health departments have started to receive citations that can be issued to businesses not complying with the mandate to wear masks. Folks with the Fayette County Health Department say the citations are similar to those used for smoking ban violators in the past. The first offense is a warning, followed by fines of $50, $75, and $100. And Keith, it's not really a rule unless there's a punishment. So I'm glad that they've, put something in place.
Yeah, and if maybe one or two of these places that are being egregious with it do get some of those warnings, those fines, then I think everybody else is going to hear about it and they're going to make sure and do the right thing.
And follow suit, yes. All right. Candidates in Kentucky's U.S. Senate race are calling each other out for questionable campaign ads, and experts are weighing in as well. Mitch McConnell's campaign has been running a spot showing protesters throwing fireworks in crowded streets and damaging buildings.
Does this look like a peaceful protest to you? My opponent, Amy McGrath, says it is. A peaceful protest, vandalism, assault, and worse? McGrath says it's un-American to protect federal buildings from being burned. I believe we have a duty to protect Americans from violence that's devastating our communities.
Meanwhile, an Amy McGrath ad suggests McConnell is soft on China, where the coronavirus first emerged.
While Amy McGrath was bombing terrorists, the ultimate law enforcement, Mitch McConnell was sitting in Washington behind a desk. And why is he smiling? His trade deals made China richer, their military stronger. They're spying on us, and they didn't stop the coronavirus.
Experts say both the McGrath and McConnell ads exploit racial stereotypes and undertones that are derogative toward people of color in an attempt to lure red state voters. McConnell says his opponent's ad is a racist attack on his wife, Elaine Chao. McGrath's campaign says she does not condone property destruction or violence and that the China-centric ad is fact-based. In other campaign news, McGrath has replaced her manager less than 3 months before the election. Keith, we knew this going in. This was going to be a down and dirty fight between both of these folks. I don't think it suggests Amy McGrath feels like she's in a good place to fire her campaign manager this close to the election.
You're telling me that somebody didn't like a political ad against them?
Crazy.
I mean, this is news to me, but yeah, I mean, both of them, I never liked when I started hearing either of those come on because it just didn't sound good to my ears either.
No, neither one of them. All right. Now let's return to the Breonna Taylor case in Louisville. Members of the Metro Council have asked Mayor Greg Fisher to step down from office, prompted by his handling of the Taylor investigation and subsequent protesting and rioting, problems with the LMPD, and skyrocketing numbers of homicides, shootings, and carjackings. Meanwhile, it turns out the LMPD spent nearly 6 figures for 26 days of security outside the homes of the officers involved in Taylor's death. That followed threats against Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly, Detective Miles Cosgrove, and former Detective Brett Hankison. An anonymous police source blames the fervor on misinformation spread on social media, although even the LMPD mistakenly referred to Taylor on the day of her death as a possible suspect who may have shot at officers. And a state representative from Louisville has pre-filed Breonna's law, which would end the use of no-knock search warrants in Kentucky and increase police accountability. And Keith, I think that's something I believe we can all pretty much agree on. No-knock warrants need to be a thing of the past.
Yeah, that and just being able to have somebody to help look in on the police as they've been trying to do with, some of these groups. And yeah, the no-knock warrant, it doesn't make sense to me because there could be situations like this, or it could be worse. There could have been more gunfire coming from inside of the house if it were some other instance. You just never know, and it could turn out badly for the police. So I don't like those on either side.
Right, and there were shots fired that went into the neighboring apartments that had nothing to do with the situation. Luckily, they all were safe. Turning to college football, the SEC continues to plan for a season. The conference releases its 2020 schedule, not at the time of this taping, but just before it. 30 minutes ago, we got a preview, though, of Kentucky's first opponent this afternoon, a road game at Auburn. As we've discussed, the SEC elected to play a conference-only season consisting of 10 games with the start date of September 26th. UK recently saw that Alabama and Ole Miss were added to its 2020 schedule. Meanwhile, the NCAA's chief medical officer is still speaking out about the slim chances of safe fall sports. Dr. Brian Hainline held a conference call with a group of fellow doctors and reporters to discuss COVID-19, saying, quote, "The pathway to play sports is so exceedingly narrow right now, everything would have to line up perfectly." And Keith, I don't know what that means, what everything lining up perfectly looks like, but I do feel like the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 are trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and if we want to look at something that might concern us, I think it's North Carolina tried to start in school with classes, and now they've all of a sudden gone to all online. And I think that was in less than a week. So we can see where they weren't able to get it done there. Maybe that's what happens with the SEC. Maybe they'll start a season and then have to end up giving it up, but they're at least giving it a try with the information they know of right now.
Yep, and that can change by the day, as we know. Now on Hey Kentucky, in case you missed it, a review of recent headlines. Rap artist Master P has announced he will cover the funeral costs for a Louisville 3-year-old killed in a shooting that also claimed her father. Trinity Randolph is the city's youngest homicide victim in 2020, which is on a record pace for record-breaking year of violence. The Diocese of Lexington has received results of an independent review of child sexual abuse allegations against more than a dozen of its clergy. It includes 10 of what they call substantiated allegations, 5 of them based here in Lexington. And Kentucky's branch of the U.S. Postal Service says it can handle a rise in mail-in ballots for the November election now that the leaders have agreed on that as an option for all voters. Up next on Hey Kentucky, in a time of massive unemployment, some folks are trying to get the word out that manufacturers around the state are hiring. More on that when we return.